an elephant and a rhino chasing, creepy encounters with crocodiles, sharks attacking boats, the frightening lion roar, and much more. In this episode, I'll show you these and other creepy animal moments that tourists managed to catch on camera. Gorillas, though herbivorous animals, are still very dangerous, especially when it comes to large alpha males, as in this case. Somewhere in the jungle, a tourist came across a giant male gorilla, which showed with all its appearance that the tourist was not welcome here. The gorilla could rush at him at any moment, and the tourist realized it, so he threw it some fruit. The gorilla calmed down a bit, but still didn't leave. It stood there for a while and then went somewhere else. It was a tense moment. But not as tense as this one. Tourists went on safari, hoping to have a quiet time, but ended up running into a very angry rhino. The giant ran to the car and started to chase the tourists away. The driver had to back up sharply and honk to scare the rhino away. But the rhino was clearly not a scaredy cat. It pushed the tourists further and further away from its territory. Something similar happened in this video, only here the situation's even more serious. People are being chased by a large elephant. These animals are not as calm as you might think. When it comes to defending their territory, they turn into unstoppable monsters and nothing can stop them. The elephant ran after the car, and fast enough at that, nothing scared it away. On the contrary, it scared the tourists, and they had to learn a lesson that's better to stay away from elephants. We had the elephant, we had the rhino. What other African giant did we miss? The hippo, of course. There it is. On the one hand, nothing special happens here. A hippo's not aggressive, tourists take pictures and selfies with it. But is it okay that the hippo is not separated by any fence? It can safely go out to people. They're only a few feet away. And the power of a hippo is a scary thing. According to statistics, these giants kill more people in Africa per year than lions. It's impossible to deal with such a huge creature. One can only run away, and then if one is very lucky, because hippos run at a speed of up to 19 miles per hour. This tourist was lucky. He managed to escape and climb a tree. But the hippo found him. Hippos do not climb trees, but the situation does not become easier. He'll have to sit in the tree for a while until the hippo leaves. Hippos are no less dangerous in the water because this is also their element. They're great swimmers and can be unnoticeable. For example, here a group of tourists were kayaking. Nothing foretold troubles, and suddenly a huge hippo jumped out in front of one of the kayaks. A little more and it would have turned the kayak over or bitten the tourist. But it didn't happen. And here are some more herbivores that are not the friendliest. The people wanted to take a picture with this bison, but it wasn't in the mood for a photo shoot, which it immediately made clear. The bison is in an even worse mood. A crowd of tourists came to see it. Everyone's staring at it, and it just wants some peace. At some point, the bison gets enraged and disperses the tourists. It chased one of them personally. Fortunately, the tourist did a victory lap around, broke away from the animal, and survived. Imagine, you take a boat, go out to sea on it, sail not far from the shore, as you see that fins have appeared around your boat. Creepy monsters are circling around you, and you can now forget about calm boating. That's exactly what happened to the guys in this video. And no, it's not sharks, it's orcas. A small pod of these killer whales put on a show and scared the people. And rightfully so. There's something to be afraid of. Orcas often try to attack different boats and even ships, and they do it well. At the same time, it's surprising that an orca will not attack a person without a boat. That is, it's safer for divers and swimmers to be in the water than for sailors and fishermen. This is an incredible paradox of the animal world. But what animal doesn't care if a person's on the boat or not is the crocodile. These monsters don't care at all. They attack anything that moves. These tourists saw the reptile and decided to get closer to it. The reptile saw them too and dived in. Maybe it was scared. No, look, it's swimming right towards them. It's swimming, 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 and scaring the people. I didn't see that coming. Fortunately, it was just all about the jump scare, and that's it. And here's another crocodile. It calmly lies on the shore. It seems that it doesn't care about everyone, but suddenly it darts off, opens its mouth, and dives into the water. It's a terrible sight. Something similar happened here. The guys decided to swim up to a huge crocodile, which was resting on the shore, but it didn't like it and tried to attack the boat. Fortunately, it was a motorboat because you can't get away from such a monster on an ordinary boat. By the way, this happened in Australia, and we saw a saltwater crocodile, the largest and most dangerous crocodile in the world. Australia has a lot of dangerous creatures in general. Among them are dingo dogs. They used to be domesticated, but then they went feral and became a danger to people. They can be anywhere. Often they can be found even on ordinary beaches. That's how dingoes can ruin a weekend vacation. And this girl was lucky. Sometimes dingoes cling to their victim no worse than a wolf or a bear. Speaking of which, bears aren't as deadly and dangerous creatures as people say they are, but an encounter with them is still always something creepy. This hiker came across a grizzly bear right on the hiking trail. Grizzly bears are characterized by special aggression, but that day everything was fine. The predator was not interested in the man at all. But here's another case. The bear is running straight towards people. The situation's crazy. It seems that the bear is about to tear everyone apart, but with the help of shouting, they managed to drive it away. Bears are generally afraid of loud noises, so when you see a bear, you should shout loudly to drive it away. I think this lion could do that very well. It roars very terribly and loudly, so any bear would be frightened. But now there are no bears around. They're only tourists who experienced a whole range of emotions. After all, the lion could not only roar but also attack the people. The car was with an open top. Humans are not the only ones who get into tense situations involving animals. Animals also find themselves in such situations. Here, tourists filmed a typical African picture. A road full of animals. These are baboons. A crowd of monkeys are minding their own business, but a leopard has its eye on them. At some point, the big cat decides to attack them, thinking that they'll be an easy snack, but it's immediately fought back by all of them. Only by a miracle did it manage to break free and escape from the army of primates. A little more and they would have torn it apart. Moray eels are not to be messed with. These sea creatures are creepy themselves, but they're even creepier when they start acting. A diver decided to film the underwater world and saw a moray eel brutally dealing with an octopus. It defeated the cephalopod in no time, but it didn't stop there. A couple of seconds later, the moray eel began to attack the diver himself. Look at the force with which it does it. Some moray eels are covered with toxic mucus, so touching the body of such an eel can cause a burn on the skin. And you shouldn't forget about these frightening teeth either. Encountering a tiger shark in the water is a guaranteed adrenaline rush, especially if the shark comes close, and especially if it tries to attack, as it did in this case. But the second diver didn't let it do that. And it was lucky. It seems that the shark was more curious than aggressive. But tiger sharks are capable of doing much more than that. This shark attacked the diver, aiming for the scuba tank. Besides, it managed to pull the diver's mask off. If there were no other divers around, the poor guy wouldn't have survived, but together they all managed to fight off the monster. Tiger sharks are also dangerous to fishermen, at least for those who sail small boats and kayaks. This fisherman was one of those. He was calmly fishing, and very suddenly his kayak was attacked by an aggressive tiger shark. It literally rammed the kayak and almost turned it over, but everything was okay with no accident, and that's the main thing. When these tourists sat down to rest and have some lunch, I'm sure they had no idea how their lunch would end. Instead of a waiter, they were visited by a pretty big elephant. At first, the giant was just surveying the area, but then something made it angry. So much so that it caused havoc. It scattered the people with its trunk and overturned the table. I wonder why it did that. Do you have any theories? And here's what happens when you turn off your car somewhere in the middle of Africa. Fast cheetahs come running and try to take it over. Look at how these cats took over the SUV. Some climbed on the roof of the cab, some climbed on the canopy, some sat on the hood. It looks quite alarming and frightening because, after all, cheetahs are well-known predators. But actually, it's all right. Cheetahs are the sort of creatures that don't attack humans. They're not interested in us as food. At the same time, they're very curious, so they always run up to people, study their cars, and try to climb on them. Animals are incredibly intelligent creatures, and you shouldn't underestimate them. Next, I'll tell you about the smartest animals on the planet and show you what they're capable of. Octopus. Many people underestimate octopuses, thinking they're just ordinary sea creatures. But in fact, they're some of the most intelligent animals on the planet. Also, many scientists claim that the octopus is the smartest invertebrate animal in the world, and I believe it. Octopuses have a very complex nervous system, as many as 3 hearts, and their tentacles can live separately from their body and keep moving. The intelligence of octopuses is often shown in their ability to escape. Octopuses are intelligent creatures that won't stay cooped up in one place, so they often try to break free. For them, there are no obstacles. The cephalopod can squeeze through the narrow neck of a bottle or a hole in a container, can climb a vertical wall and climb over the fence, and can even open the lid of the jar. In a number of experiments, octopuses were able to escape from confinement in this way, or on the contrary, open the jar to get a treat from there. Also, octopuses have a good memory, which was proved by one of the tests, which lasted several days. In addition, the cephalopods can play, distinguish geometric shapes, solve non-standard problems, recognize people, and even attach to them. What's more, scientists believe that some octopuses can even recognize themselves in the mirror, and only a few animals in the world are capable of this. Chimpanzee. These primates are capable of this too. Chimpanzees are the closest animals in existence to humans. Our genetic base is almost identical, so there's no doubt about the mental abilities of chimpanzees, but they're very surprising. For example, chimpanzees can beat humans in a memory test. Take a look at this footage. The screen shows numbers from 1 to 9. The chimp has to memorize them literally in an instant, and then press the white squares in order, restoring the correct sequence. I tried to repeat after the primate, but I wasn't able to memorize everything as quickly as it did. Chimpanzees have phenomenal photographic memory. It's also amazing that the primate even understands the numbers 1 to 9. It does everything consciously. Speaking of consciousness, chimpanzees are one of the few animals that recognize themselves in the mirror. That means they have self-awareness, which is a sign of high intelligence. In addition, many chimpanzees are excellent at using improvised objects as tools. For example, they make sticks for defense, and with the help of twigs, they get ants out of trees. They also know how to use human tools, like a drill. What is there to talk about when chimpanzees can be literally humanized? Some chimpanzees eat like humans, behave almost like humans, use smartphones, and can even try to walk upright. It's hard to find anyone more intelligent in the animal world. Elephants. This giant may not be able to walk upright or use a smartphone, but its intelligence is superb. Elephants have more convolutions in their brain than even primates. And Asian elephants have the largest volume of cerebral cortex. According to some reports, the average IQ of elephants is equal to that of a 7-year-old child. They can do a lot of things. For example, some elephants can draw, and not just some scribble. Take a look at this elephant named Suda. She draws full-fledged drawings, like a human, and signs her name. It's hard to believe it's even possible. Even a lot of people draw worse than her. I'll speak for myself, I'm among them. Elephants can also play musical instruments and sports. These elephants, for example, are trying their hand at being drummers and soccer players. It looks really cool. And this elephant is picking up trash scattered by humans. It takes a really high intelligence to understand what it means to clean up the area. Like chimpanzees, elephants recognize themselves in the mirror and have self-awareness, an understanding of who they are and what they look like. Finally, we shouldn't forget about elephants' memory. It's amazing. Elephants have a long-lasting impression of what they've seen, so they remember well various emotional moments from their lives. They also remember their congeners and relatives. These giants remember their loved ones and important people in great detail, even decades later. By the way, they can cooperate with other elephants, solving important tasks, which also speaks of their high intelligence. Dolphin. Dolphins are often called the smartest animals in the world. In fact, it's very difficult to determine which animal is the smartest because they're all organized differently. But there's no doubt that the dolphin is one of the top smartest creatures on the planet. These mammals recognize themselves in the mirror and realize their position in society. They clearly understand who they are, what group they belong to, who is older and younger than them, and who is more important. They're also social within their pods. Dolphins communicate with each other, come to the aid of a dolphin that needs it, worry about each other. They cheer up those dolphins which are sad or sick, and have fun with the dolphins which are happy. Speaking of happiness, they can induce it and get it artificially. Dolphins are one of the few animals that realize what intoxication is and how they can get drunk or high. They do this by chasing poisonous pufferfish, getting pricked by them nibbling on them. A toxin is released into their body that gives them a state of euphoria and trance. The intelligence of dolphins is also manifested in hunting. These creatures are carnivorous, and at times they use complex tactics to catch fish. Alternatively, they can create a mud ring. They pick up mud and silt from the bottom, surround the fish in this way. The fish gets out of the ring and into the mouth of another dolphin that's waiting for it outside the trap. Sometimes dolphins can do this alone, but such hunting is more difficult. Finally, dolphins are well trained. They accurately copy the movements of people and masterfully imitate them. No wonder that these intelligent animals are so actively used in oceanariums for various shows. Few animals are able to learn tricks as great as dolphins. Crow. It is perhaps the most intelligent bird on the planet. According to the results of some tests, scientists have found that the intelligence of a crow corresponds to that of a child. New Caledonian crows, which live in the Pacific Ocean, are particularly intelligent. They're able to establish and realize cause and effect relationship no worse than children aged 5 to 7 years. In a series of experiments, these birds demonstrated how to use Archimedes' principle. They threw stones into a vessel of water so that it would rise and allow them to grab a piece of food floating on the surface. In addition, these crows are able to make improvised tools or use various objects to get food. Crows are also one of the few talking animals. They're able to mimic and repeat sounds in an amazing way, and some crows talk in such a way that their voice is indistinguishable from a human voice. Of course, they're still far from complex sentences, but even a few meaningful words spoken clearly and cleanly are enough to recognize a crow as one of the smartest creatures on the planet. Dog. I'm sure you've all been waiting for this four-legged one in this episode. It's no secret that dogs are very smart. Probably everyone knows about it, but fewer people know how smart they really are. Scientists believe that the mental abilities of a dog are comparable to the intelligence of a 2-year-old child. They made this conclusion on the basis of vocabulary. Dogs, like small children, can memorize about 200 words, and the smartest dogs know 250 words, and even more. As for math, dogs are even cooler than 2-year-old children. They can count to 4 to 5 and perform calculations within these limits. These are skills that children don't usually acquire until they're 3 to 4 years old. In addition, dogs are great at solving spatial problems. They find hidden objects or the shortest routes. This, of course, depends on the breed and the owner, but many dogs are perfectly trainable. With enough time, patience, and effort, a dog can be made into a perfectly obedient pet that will obey any command without question. Some dogs can even be made into stunt animals. Take a look at this four-legged skater, for example. Only a smart animal can do this. Dogs are characterized by empathy. They can express a wide range of emotions and feelings, and most importantly, very well understand what's going on around them. It's not without reason that they say a dog understands everything but cannot speak. If people knew the dog language, they would have been fully convinced of it long ago. Rat. Although the rat's brain is small, this rodent is characterized by outstanding intelligence and cleverness. In some ways, some rats can be as smart as dogs. Some rats can be properly trained, and they'll follow commands no worse than faithful dogs. Rats surprise with unconventional behavior in difficult situations, recognize traps and many poisons, and can get out of even a twisted and complex maze, which has been confirmed by tests. Rats are also able to express emotions and recognize them in relatives and even in humans. They're no stranger to empathy, compassion, and sympathy. If necessary, the rat can support its congener or a human, and if in some cases the rodent can even laugh because of something positive. Pig. Many people think that pigs are stupid. This is understandable. Outwardly, they do not look like animals that are endowed with intelligence, but appearances can be deceiving. In fact, pigs are one of the most intelligent animals, and perhaps the smartest of all farm creatures. Their intelligence is comparable to that of a dog, and at some points, pigs are even superior to dogs in terms of intelligence. It's not completely clear whether the pigs recognize themselves in the mirror, but they know exactly what a mirror is. That is, they understand the principle of reflection. Pigs can use the visual information from the mirror to find food. Pigs also have a great spatial orientation, long-term memory, and use special sounds to communicate. If desired, a pig can be trained just as well as a dog, which indicates its very high level of intelligence. Painter. Elephants are considered incredibly intelligent animals, but you should know that they're also extremely talented. Take a look at this elephant named Suda. She lives in Thailand, where she's a local celebrity because she can paint. She takes a brush with her trunk and carefully draws lines on the paper. And this is far from meaningless scribbles. Suda draws full-fledged paintings. For example, here she drew herself and even signed the drawing in English. Honestly, I find that hard to believe. It's just incredible how brilliant animals can be. Suda also draws other pictures. Take a look at this process. And while you're watching, I'll tell you how Suda managed to draw it all from a physical point of view. Even though the elephant's trunk can weigh over 220 pounds, Suda's paintings are very neat and graceful. This is because there are about 100,000 muscles in the elephant's trunk. That's about 100 times more muscles in an entire human being. Because of this, elephants can both do delicate work and tear things apart. With their trunk, they can both draw pictures and uproot trees. Elephants are amazing. Let's move on to other ingenious animals. First up is the seagull. Apparently, it thought it was too hard to steal food from people, so it solved the problem in an ingenious way. It realized that the food was in a grocery store, went inside and snatched a pack of chips, which it immediately opened and started eating. And here's another video. Something tells me it's the same bird. It stole the sandwich, and even though passers-by tried to stop it this time, it got what it wanted. It may be a criminal, but how can anyone arrest it? Ping pong. Do you think you could beat that chimp in ping pong? I don't know about you, but I couldn't. It plays better than many people. It's hard to argue with that. In this particular match, the score was 2-2, but we only saw a small part of it. Who knows, maybe the primate won. Judging by how well it played, it's possible. A chimpanzee playing ping pong is cool, but what about an animal behind the wheel of a car? And no, it's not just sitting there, it's actually driving the car. It's unbelievable, but it's a fact. Look at these dogs. That's Monty, Ginny, and Potter, and in this footage, they're actually driving a car. They're taking their driver's test. The dogs started the car, pressed the brake pedal, shifted gears, steered, controlled the speed, and kept their eyes on the road. Wasn't a prank, it was real. Porter they're showing now even turned, though he drove onto the lawn at the end. The tail driver passed his driving test. But how was that even possible? It turns out that the animals were trained to drive a car for 5 weeks on a special cart simulating a car, and then they were trained to be behind the wheel of a real car for another 3 weeks. Basketball. This is Jamal, a monkey from the Philippines who would fit in any basketball team. Look how good he is at basketball. Thanks to his incredible leaping ability, he slam dunks as good as NBA stars. Yes, of course, the ring, the ball, and the basket are not exactly the same as in real basketball, but it looks incredibly cool to me anyway. Drinking. Apparently, the owners of this cat forgot to water it. Or it just didn't have enough water, so it decided to get creative. It watched people, realized how exactly the cooler works, and now it can quench its thirst at any time without waiting for its owners to pour water into its bowl. And here's another water-loving furball. This cat loves running water. The cat has quenched its thirst and cleaned up after itself. It turned the tap off itself so it wouldn't waste water. It checked to see if the water was still flowing, and only then it left. And no, it wasn't an accident. The owner of this clever furball says that it does this very often. What are parrots capable of? Many will immediately think of how they can talk, imitate sounds, and even have small dialogues. That's right, but they're also masters at picking locks. Well, at least this feathered one called Smudge is. His owner puts small doors with different types of locks in front of him, gives him the task of opening the door, and Smudge handles it without much difficulty. If he has to, he can twist something or pull something out and then open the lock. If he has to, he can open the latch. If he has to, he can lift the door by twisting the lift mechanism. He can even work with keys and find the right key for a particular lock. I wonder if his owner keeps him in a cage. If Smudge can do that, then escaping from the cage shouldn't be a problem for him. Speaking of escape, do you know what genius animals can be called masters of escape? Turns out these are octopuses. These animals are difficult to keep in captivity. They want freedom and will not miss an opportunity to escape from a trap. This octopus, for example, has been placed in a container. There's no lid, just a small opening. It seems like there's no way for such a giant to get out, but it doesn't think so. Like a real illusionist, the large octopus got out of the container in just half a minute. Skater. Learning to skateboard isn't easy, and it's even more difficult when it comes to a dog. But there are some genius dogs in the world, such as Jumpy, who can do it. This amazing dog not only managed to learn how to stay on the board, but also set a Guinness World Record. He skated 109 yards in just under 20 seconds. During one of his attempts, he didn't give up, even when he drove onto the lawn. Jumpy himself pulled the skateboard onto the asphalt and continued moving. Here's another amazing skater, a dog named Rush from Italy. He likes turns and spins more than speed rides, and he can also do this. Watch Rush balancing on his skateboard while holding a stand with 6 cups on his head. That's impressive. Some like skateboarding and others like playing volleyball. A dog named Kiara plays this game better than many people. See how effectively she works in tandem with her owner? Kiara is a great setter. The dog brought the winning ball. See for yourself. These sea lions are no worse. They play 2-on-2 volleyball in the oceanarium and amaze with their teamwork, knowledge of the rules, and skills. This ginger cat's name is Bruno. He lives in a private house and loves to go out and walk on his own. Getting back in is usually more difficult for him, but he's come up with an ingenious solution to the problem. After a walk, Bruno climbs higher to the bell and rings the doorbell for his owners to open the door for him. And they say cats aren't savvy. Here's another genius cat. It learned to open the door by itself. The furball lives with dogs, which often want to walk outside, but they themselves cannot open the door. So they have to turn to their tailed friend for help. It copes with the task perfectly. The cat opens the door and pushes itself through the hole. The smaller dog opens the passage, and the 2 big dogs come out without any problems. This is real teamwork. Still remember Suda, the elephant who draws pictures? Well, that's not the only thing elephants can do. They're not only painters, they're also musicians. This elephant watched the work of a drummer in the zoo and decided to try itself as a drummer. The giant moved the drum to itself and tapped on it with its trunk, like a drumstick. Not bad for the first time. And this horse decided to try its hand at keyboard instruments. Check out how it plays the piano. From time to time, it even makes up a full-fledged melody. This horse could be the next Mozart or Beethoven, don't you think? Crossing the road. The genius of animals can be instructive to humans. For example, this family of swans showed everyone how to cross the road properly. These birds would have been allowed to cross the road everywhere, but they decided to follow the pedestrian crossing, as it should be. Slowly but confidently enough, the birds moved to the other side of the road. A lot of people have something to learn from them. As from this elephant, it noticed that someone threw out the garbage literally a couple of feet from the trash can. The giant decided to show people exactly where to throw garbage and quickly cleaned everything up. It seems to me that if the person who left this garbage saw this footage, they would be very ashamed. That's all, guys. Which animals impressed you the most with its intelligence and talents? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.